challenging for higher ed overall, but in terms of interfacing with employment opportunities, that's what young people, that's what people want out of the apprenticeship system, and that's what employers want as well. They want skilled individuals that can come into the workplace and contribute from day one as part of that team that they've developed. So that's just sort of one of the challenges that I would point to that I don't think it's by any means insurmountable. It's partially, you got to recognize that the other partner might have a different frame of reference and might be evaluated differently in terms of their outcomes. Those are valid, and see if you can sort of merge the various outcomes into one more comprehensive system.
Great. Okay, well, the experts in here are not only the ones sitting up front, but all of you sitting here at the state tables. You're all experts in your own right in different areas. We want to give you an opportunity right now to maybe ask some questions of the panel, maybe to volunteer your own responses to some of the questions that you heard, some of the things we talked about today. So we have two folks with mics. I think, Chad, you're over there with one. Rex, you're over there with another. Why don't we start out? Is this questions for anyone on the panel about anything you've heard so far today? Questions, comments? Okay, right there. Yes, ma'am.
This is for Bruce Herman. Can you share with us some of your positive outcomes with expanding apprenticeship into some of the non-traditional industry sectors?
Well, I would start by saying it's very much a work in process, and we have a long way to go. But we do believe that there are opportunities, and some of our team members reflect those industries or come out of those industries where we think there are those opportunities. Healthcare in particular, we have good experience in terms of advanced manufacturing with already established programs. Can we broaden those, particularly bring in more in small and mid-sized employers? But again, we've had to really look at the basic approach and blend a competency-based and time-based system, because the time-based system that is very fully developed, I would say, in the context of the building trades, is not a great fit with these other industries. So we have, in fact, what our challenge is, we have a lot of apprenticeable trades, if you will, occupations, but we don't see them actually being utilized in the context of employers really working within that system in a formal way with any sort of numbers and scale, and that's one of the challenges we have in our state. But it's also something that, again, this is not something that New York necessarily, or New Jersey, or any of us need to figure out on our own. I imagine that we all have a number of industries that are fairly good in terms of job growth in our communities. Healthcare is always one at the top of the list. And I think a collaborative approach, this is where we could get some support, of course, from ETA and USDOL that would really try to identify good practice and share those practices among the various states, and would be, I think, a real help and allow us to get farther faster.
Great. Other questions? Who's the next hand over here?
Thank you. I pretty much liked your presentation, all of you. In particular, though, community college representative here. I know that higher education tends to be difficult, as you have indicated. I think that one of the ways in higher education we tend to be looking at accreditation. Yes. At the back of what we do, we're looking at accreditation. I think, though, that there's more of a shift now from accrediting bodies for more outcome-based performance. So I think that that's a positive. Yes. And I think that is going to be a smoother way going forward. So I want to offer that as some kind of hope. Don't let them bamboozle you, because that is something that is coming down. For Mr. Cortez, I was, again, very much impressed with your presentation. By the way, you don't have to wait until we invite you. You could come to Virgin Islands anytime. Thank you. But I was wondering how is it you were able to place 100% of your your apprentices, from what I heard you say. Am I right? And the times are so difficult, and in other areas I'm hearing that the building, home foreclosures and building going down and so on. So you must have had some really innovative ways in which you approach that, and could you share that with?
Sure.
Thank you.
The primary reason that we're able to place all of our graduates currently, and right now I have no bench, which is a wonderful thing to have. The reason is that work on the demand side. The work with the project owner community, the people who use the construction services, and what they do is they catalyze the demand. And they say 15% of your total labor hours, all you bidders, all you contractors, all you primes, all you subs, are going to come from apprentices. And not only that, we care about local apprentices and we care about communities of color, right? So when a project owner takes that type of leadership stance, writes it directly into their specs, you know, a local hiring hall has no problem with that, right? But if they get a call from a contractor that says, we need this type of person from this zip code who looks like this, and they don't have somebody available, it creates that opportunity for me to put somebody in, right? So that's the way that we've been able to achieve that in terms of working on the policy side. And that's just in general in any industry. I would just say, please don't work on just the supply side or just the demand side, because the two need to meet in the middle to work together effectively. So it really has to be the policy framework or the implementation framework between supply and demand in terms of the work to be effective. And I just can't help but expand on one comment in terms of the registered apprenticeship moving to other industries. I really hope that happens, and community colleges have an incredible role to play there as related technical instruction providers. As we branch into other industries, there's a prosthetic limb maker apprenticeship somewhere. I'm thinking I might want to take that, right? The reason that construction is looked at so often is the jointly managed programs between labor unions and contractors have 70% of the apprenticeships currently, even though they only have 17% of the market, right? There's something wrong with that equation. And nobody's scared of competition. It just decreases the gap between the two. So please expand apprenticeship. Please expand it to other areas. I'm shocked that there aren't more set up in healthcare in particular. To move people from, because that's a perfect example of where you have a great opportunity to move entry-level workers in as you move incumbent workers up. And you can really set up an apprenticeship program to do that, and I would suggest that a community college or a workforce development specialist like many of you can reverse engineer that curriculum and help that business think that way. So just an expansion.
Great. We have a question back here. I think the Vermont team was next.
Yeah, someone mentioned articulation agreement with the technical centers. And I know Vermont has talked for years about, school to work, and the contractors would love to make sure that the people in the technical schools move into their jobs and that they're already tracking that way and they want to be there and they understand the industry. My question is, did you have a role in developing the curriculum or inputting the needs of the workforce into the technical schools when you signed the articulation agreement?
I can just speak to the sheet metal worker. We are having a role with the curriculum. I know the vocational schools want to know what we're teaching so they can pass that on to the kids in high school. So yeah, we will have a role in that.
Again, through grant resources, we're also doing a very similar type of curriculum input with a technical academy on a secondary level by setting up an advisory structure which helps keep it industry relevant.
Okay, we got another question. Did anyone else want to comment on that first before we go to the next question? We've got another one, Chad. I think you have another one up front?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Eduardo Canera from the Virgin Islands. You can rest assured that education now emphasizes retain employment, both in the AFLA, which is Adult Family Literacy Act for the adult education module, and in the Perkins for career and technical. One of the performance indicators is retain employment. So you can rest assured that that bridge is being met. I had a question for Sharon. You were talking about an AA program within a community college that you can get about 42 credits for skill attainment.
Yes.
What is the amount of credits for the core curriculum?
It's about 22, and we had some accreditation questions about that to see if that was going to maintain our accreditation. Our chancellor went to bat, and he showed everything that we were giving credit for through the apprenticeship program, and our accrediting institution or agency had no problems with it at all. So we did go through that.
You were able to crosswalk the embedded
Yes.
curriculum
That's
across the
correct.
skill attainment. And non-traditional is very important in career and technical. So Phoebe, what was the name of that pre-apprenticeship agency that allow you to do the non-trad training?
They're called Non-Traditional Employment for Women, new. They're in New York. They were started in the 70s, and I'm 95% they're here. So I'm sure you can find them this afternoon or tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got questions back here in this order. We've got the back table from New York. We have this gentleman, and then we have this woman from Massachusetts. We're going to go in that order. 1, 2, and 3 up here.
Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about the health care, because that is problematic from a structural point of view. On one hand, and I think there's a split. On one hand, there's the clinical side of healthcare, and then there's the non-clinical side of healthcare. There are a lot of opportunities in the non-clinical side that I think need to be explored. But when we start looking at the clinical side, which on some level, from a training and education point of view, is structured very much like an apprenticeship. There's didactic and there's clinical. So you could say it's didactic and a kind of hands-on practice. But the professional associations in healthcare in the clinical side have been a real barrier to moving into apprenticeship model. There are many I work with employers and unions around New York and even other places, and there's a tremendous interest in doing this, but the barrier is with the professional associations who, as somebody said up there, I think it was Sharon, they don't understand, they see this applied learning of apprenticeships as being somehow not what they're interested in for all kinds of reasons. I would like to know from the panel, and maybe from anybody else, how, if any of you have been able to work with some of the professional and accrediting associations to get them to be more open to an apprenticeship model.
Let's take a shot at that.
Not my sector. That's an easy one.
I just mentioned to these gentlemen up here that we had some of our institutions sort of question, were we going to be able to keep our accreditation by doing this program, because there's a certain percentage that you have to, a certain percentage of the courses that you have to get from the community college side. And to be honest, I can't remember exactly what that percentage is right now. And they were wondering, because we could give the 42 credits and then we only provided about 21 or 22 of the general education courses, if that was going to work. Our chancellor did check on that, and because of what the apprenticeship training was, our accrediting agency said that it was okay. You know, they totally approved what we were trying to do. So we were glad that, you know, we were able to align the courses with the courses that we offer, that they were still getting the same kind of training, and that if they would have, say, did a CLEP test, just testing out to see if they were going to be able to come out with the same goals and objectives that if they had gone through the class, and they were able to do that. So the goals were the same, the objectives were the same, and the accrediting agency said okay. So we worked that. We did work through that, thank goodness. It was a bit of a challenge, but we were able to do that.
We have two folks here who have questions, but I think the gentleman from Vermont back here wanted to respond to this question. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we'll let you interject that before we move on to another one.
All right, we have a small nonprofit running in Vermont, and we've been working with Fletcher Allen Health